How are we gonna get you down?
I'll get down here. People are dead.
Dead? What people?
One day, a car raced down the highway at merely high speeds. The driver seemed pursued by time itself, carrying something of immense importance. Yet his journey came to an abrupt halt when he encountered an unmoving line of cars and trucks, stretching endlessly ahead. Convinced he would never arrive on time, Chris decided to turn his vehicle around and search for an alternative route. During his detour, Chris discovered a directional sign that he believed would lead him to his destination more quickly. Attempting to buy time, he tried calling the person waiting for his arrival to inform them about the massive traffic jam. But in the middle of the conversation, his signal suddenly vanished completely. Immediately, he began searching for a gas station where he could borrow a phone. As soon as Chris reached a gas station, he asked the attendant to use one of the phone booths. But the line was dead. Undeterred, Chris continued seeking ways to reach his destination swiftly. Then he spotted a route that seemed promising, one that would supposedly get him there faster. However, the gas station attendant warned him against taking that path.
Looks like it runs in the highway about 15-20 miles, is that right?
Chris asked why, but the man offered no explanation. Feeling the pressure of time, Chris hastily bid farewell to the station attendant and sped off once more.
Thank you very much. You take care, okay?
You're the one gonna need to take care.
Before we find out what happens next, things are about to get crazy. If you're enjoying the story so far, take a quick second to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out and you won't miss the insane ending. As his car cut through the forest, he witnessed unnatural sights. An animal carcasses rotting in states that suggested brutal mauling by savage beasts. And suddenly, the collision was unavoidable. Chris immediately exited his vehicle to check on the occupants of the car he had just struck. He encountered 2 men and 3 women, all relatively young. At the same moment, they too were seeking help because their tire had blown out. Jessie, one of the women in the group, sensed that their car had passed through a road deliberately booby-trapped with sharp wires. She expressed her belief that they needed to find assistance before darkness fell. They agreed to split up in search of help. However, 2 of them decided to stay behind and wait for a passing car.
Where are you? You pissing or something?
As they walked through the forest, Scott shared the story of how he and his friends had become lost while searching for a camping spot. Throughout this search, none of them realized that something was already stalking them from the shadows. Not long into their walk, hope appeared on the horizon. An old house stood waiting, constructed of wood that had begun to rot, appearing long abandoned. The yard was filled with rusted, decaying automobiles, though no lights illuminated the structure. Smoke still billowed from the chimney, suggesting someone still dwelt within. Chris approached the threshold and knocked. No answer came from inside, so they decided to enter anyway. A strange feeling began to envelop Jessie, whether from the building itself or the atmosphere within. Something felt deeply wrong.
Hello?
Chris started sensing abnormalities when he noticed several dirty plates that held remnants of food, perhaps long spoiled or perhaps fresh kill recently consumed. An old gramophone played records with its platter still spinning, clear evidence that someone still inhabited this place. Strangely, Jessie discovered several car keys that left her confused and uneasy. Chris explored another room and found it filthy and damp, containing only bones and blackened flesh. The smoke rising from the chimney came from a cauldron clearly used for cooking. Chris felt certain the bones didn't resemble any ribs he had ever eaten. Moving deeper, he opened an old refrigerator, finding it filled with glass containers holding pieces of flesh suspended in reddish liquid. Curiosity compelled him to examine one container, and he discovered something utterly revolting. Carly, the girl in the blue tank top, entered the bathroom to relieve herself. But she abandoned that intention immediately upon discovering that the bathtub contained the dismembered remains of a human body.
Guys, check this out.
The sound of a tow truck grew closer. Scott attempted to find another exit. With hesitant, they realized they were trapped in a slaughterhouse. Unclear about the nature of the beings inhabiting this house, they chose to hide beneath various sections of the structure. Chris and Jesse hid beneath the same floor section. Their concealment nearly compromised when Jessie struggled to contain her terror upon witnessing her friend's brutal death. The girl's eyes bulged wide, her cheek torn open with barbed wire still deeply embedded, almost cleaving her face in two. Meanwhile, Carly and Scott hid behind the toilet, watching through a keyhole as their friend was carved. Like game meat being prepared for a feast, the sight was pure nightmare, three grotesque, faced beings clearly delighted by their fresh human prey. Several body parts lay scattered across the floor like a banquet table, the metallic smell of fresh blood saturating every room. The horror forced them to endure until silence finally fell. Chris sensed this was their opportunity to escape the cannibal's lair. He signaled Scott and Carly to move out. But before taking their final steps out of that house, one of the monster-faced inhabitants stirred from sleep and awakened. Chris led everyone running toward the forest valley. He noticed something strange. The cannibal family wasn't pursuing them. Their flight ended at a clearing filled with more vehicles than trees. Chris assumed all these cars belonged to previous victims who had become the cannibal family's meals. Nearly every vehicle body was stained with dried blood.
Get down! Get out!
Not long after, three terrifying humanoid figures appeared. They were armed, one with a bow and arrow, another with a shotgun. Chris positioned himself as a distraction, hoping Jessie and her two companions could steal the tow truck and escape. But a shotgun blast struck Chris's leg badly. Scott ran to divert the creature's attention. Jessie and Carly dragged Chris into the truck, quickly taking the wheel.
Where is he? Where?
Scott ran desperately, and the others nearly reached him. But tragically,
Come on, Scott!
the poor man was struck by an arrow just steps away from the truck that had come to save him. The three survivors' escape eventually stalled in an unfamiliar section of the forest. They continued on foot. A glimmer of hope appeared when Carly spotted a fire tower typically used for monitoring forest areas. Chris prayed the tower still had a radio transmitter they could use to call for help. Upon reaching the top, they felt their escape might end tragically. Carly was profoundly pessimistic about everything she had witnessed. Darkness began to fall. No signs of life existed in this part of the forest except the cannibal's house. But once again, Carly discovered hope and intercom radio. Jessie repeatedly broadcast their desperate plea for help. Not long after, a response came through. But simultaneously, the cannibal family had found their hiding place. The voice on the radio kept asking for their location, but none of them could explain exactly where they were. Amid the tension, smoke began to rise. Chris realized the cannibals were trying to burn them alive. Seeing no other option, a panicked Carly shattered a window to escape by jumping from 20 feet up. Chris believed tree branches would provide temporary cover. After that moment, only Chris and Jessie remained alive. They managed to hide behind the cascading water of a waterfall. The dark night gave way to dawn. In the morning light, Jessie and Chris continued their flight.
It didn't hurt. Road.
What?
Road. Look.
Hope flickered once more when Chris spotted a car approaching with flashing lights, a ranger's vehicle,
How are we gonna get you down?
I'll get down here.
nearly striking one of them. Chris attempted to fight back, But the cannibal's blow was too powerful and sent him crashing to the ground. Jesse was captured by the cannibal family. Immediately, Chris ran desperately for help. John, the forest ranger, tried to calm the panicked Chris, but moments later,
People are dead.
Dead? What people?
the ranger fell dead with an arrow embedded precisely in his left eye. Chris was forced to hide again among the bushes. From his concealed position, he watched a towering figure with a terrifying face drag away the ranger's body. Consumed by panic, Chris decided to slip beneath a car and make his way back toward the cannibal's house. At the slaughterhouse, bound to the bed, Jessie begged desperately for the creature to release her. One of the cannibal family members returned, carrying the body of the police ranger. Sadly, she forced to watch the cannibals methodically decapitate the ranger with repeated swings of a blade. Not long after, as one of the cannibals prepared to dismember Jesse's body, fire erupted from a Molotov cocktail thrown through the doorway. Simultaneously, Chris drove a vehicle through the house. Chris quickly worked to free Jesse from the wire bindings. Suddenly, another cannibal appeared and hurled Chris across the room. With only one hand, the creature began choking him, cornered and nearly dead. Chris was unexpectedly saved when Jesse managed to drive an arrow precisely into the giant creature's head. Chris couldn't believe that the cannibal family could still move and pursue him, even after such wounds. Without hesitation, he fired a bullet into a gasoline canister, which exploded and set the entire house ablaze. The two survivors escaped from the cruel grasp of those monstrous beings, and so their nightmare came to an end. Thanks so much for watching. If you're ready for the next journey, please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. I can't wait to share the next tale with you. Until next time.